Okay, good evening all. That's probably a bit loud. Let's turn that down a bit. I've lost my mute. There we go. Right, and we'll do a bit of that, which seems to be working. Lighting's not good, as usual. Let's play with that. Should be a bit better. So far I have G7JTT, who's going to be first, G8 GTZ second, G7NTG third, and G0MJW. Wonder if where are we? M5AFG, possibly. Perhaps you could put something up on... Oh, I see. Okay, I will call M5AFG in after G0MJW. So, Mike, if you can remember to make sure you call M5AFG in after you're over. Good evening to all the watchers, Tim, John, Malcolm, and everybody. Where are we? We're 8 o'clock. Okay, I've gone H265 tonight. Please tell me if you get any problems. And even using the dreaded OBS, you can see it on the laptop behind me. Just thought I'd give the F1 EJP script a try, and very impressed with it, actually. News for this week. Don't forget the contest, 20th, 21st of March, 146 and 437. I know we won't be able to get out portable for that, but many of you should be able to work that from home, and there's a good chance of some contacts there. So 146 on 437 the weekend after next, 20th, 21st. For those of you who weren't watching last week, Cat 21 is on 21st, 22nd of August at Coventry. And this Sunday is the deadline for CQTV. The closes for press first thing Monday morning. So please, if you've got any articles, get them into us. Yeah, apologies about the lip sync. I haven't had a chance to sort it out. It is about a second out. Audio sync is rubbish. Yeah, okay. Picture's good though, and I'm into amateur TV. Right. There'll be some other problems with lip sync tonight as well. It's not our strong point. Let's go straight round to John. G7JTT to take it. G8GKQ and the BATC Net standing by.
It seems that lockdown has been very beneficial to us in the last few days.
Yes, good evening everybody, and trust you're all well. What's been happening this week? Well, it's been a bit of a disastrous week actually. Some of you saw on the forum, I actually went up to GB3HV to install the Ryde receiver, and that probably is the only thing that went right this week. That's now gone in. I'd installed the Ryde receiver before Christmas, and it wasn't working. And I discovered that the problem was that we've got a masthead preamp and a separate cable running DC up there, and that cable had gone high resistance, which was a bit of a pig to find, because when you measured it, it seemed all right. As soon as you put the preamp on it, it was enough to drag it down. So I did actually manage to find that. That was a success. But in the process of doing it, I managed to drop my iPhone. And, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks all right there, of course. But it's an absolute mess. So I had to buy a new phone. And also I took my Pluto up there in the die-cast box to use as a test signal generator, and it wouldn't work either on the ports down or on a PC. So brought it home, and it looks like one side of the USB data channels has gone short to deck. There's a couple of, I've got dug right into it, and I even snipped out the two protection. There's a diode each on the USB lines, and I snipped those out, and it wasn't that. And no, none of the fixes on the web work, because they all depend on it being being able to get in on USB. So the DTU modes don't work or anything. It's just dead on the USB, and as I say, one of the data lines has gone short to deck. So yes, discovered that DigiKey actually are doing them 127 quid delivered, which is actually a pretty good price. So that was that. The good thing is that the Ryde receiver is working superb up at HV now. Really sensitive, and 333 and 2 megasymbols, so that works really well. The other thing I did while I was up there is recover the 3.4 gig transmitter masthead box. It's a 3.4 gig TV repeater, and I put the transverter and the power amplifier at the masthead In fact, I can show you it. It's a bit bright with the light behind it, but that on the bench there is the that's the masthead box. Let me just turn that light up. So that's the masthead box, and we stick 800 megs up the coax into that. So that was fine until it's got a homemade transverter in there, and I didn't pay too much attention to frequency stability or actually being on frequency, and because for DATV it doesn't matter. And but we've recently put a 3.4 gig beacon on from there, and it uses the same transverter PA and aerial system, and being 150 kilohertz off frequency on narrowband really is unacceptable in drifting around. So the plan is to put a locked LO in there, so that's what's happening there. The other disaster, I did an upgrade to one of my ports down, as Dave knows, and the wave share screen didn't work. That was another afternoon of prattling around. Discovered that the upgrade, the rebuild was faulty, so I rebuilt the card and now it works. And the prattling around today has been on this actually 3.4 gig. Going to use an ADF 4351 with a PIC driving it, and I programmed a PIC and I couldn't get it to go, and I reprogrammed the PIC and all sorts of things, and I got the ports down signal generator and that worked, and still couldn't get it to be driven by a PIC. So I then dragged out an old piece of kit that I knew had got an ADF 4351 and a PIC, and that worked on this frequency, so the PIC was okay. And it turns out that for some reason or other I got two new ADF 4351s, and they don't like being driven by the PIC. The Portsdown will drive them, but they don't like being driven by the PIC. So that was another afternoon wasted of prattling around. In between all of this, FFmpeg scripts, been playing with those for Mike LES, and glad to see there's been some real progress on it. That's good. And finally, I don't know if it's going to affect the shop, but John reminded me, the sorting office here in town in Basingstoke, there's a report that about 70 people are off with COVID. It's been struck down by COVID, and we haven't had any mail for the last couple of days, so I'm not sure if that's going to affect BATC shop stuff, but it's certainly stopping me getting some interesting bits that I know are in the post. So all in all, probably a week to forget, but hey, there you go. Right, who was next? Jim. Let's see if he can do any better for this week. G7NTG.
Just make sure we've got some audio. Yes. Right, I should have a bit more audio volume tonight, although my sync is way off. I emailed Dave the other day to find out how to turn the volume up on the webcam, and gave him some other reports about the other audio types I was using with huge lip sync delays. And then I went and updated my Portsdown 4, and now my lip sync's all over the place too. So, I'm sorry about that, Dave. I'm sorry to mess everything up. But that's what it's all about. That's how we find out about these things, isn't it? So yeah, interested. I think you said, Noel, you said DigiKey are doing the Pluto for 127. That's you'll probably confirm that next time round that it is DigiKey. I'm a bit deaf, you see. because I wouldn't mind having to go with a Pluto again. I gave mine away last year just to see if I can get some improvements in picture and audio quality. I've had quite good success this week as well. Yes, that's been alright. Nothing major. I left the antennas up last night through this really strong wind, and they all survived magnificently well, so I'm pleased with that. My two 40-foot masts are okay. I've just been building a Ryde receiver. It's nearly finished, with thanks to Gareth at G4XAT for the lovely front panel he made for me. Printed that for me for the push buttons, so that works very nice. I'm trying to hold it at an angle so you can see it. That all works very nicely. That's an on-off switch, by the way. It's a rotary rocker, a circular rocker. But the only thing I'm waiting for this is the network socket, which I'm going to put here, so you can link it up to a network. Other than that, it's all ready to go. And if you're watching Dionysius, I'm sure you are, I've put your 12-volt supply in, although I had the box is big enough to take the 12-volt main supply and a main socket, but you said you wanted it just 12 volts, so that's, the box is actually now bigger than it really need be, but it was too late. I'd already ordered it, so there you go. It's nearly finished, just waiting for the one thing. And I also managed to get another bargain. I've got a power sensor, a card one, extremely cheaply from that eBay website, and it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm not really sure that it was going to work when I got it, so I was going to use it to do these conversions people are playing with. So one of these days I will get a blown up one that I can play with. This one is actually, if I swing that round, you can see just about see the power meter with the LED lit up, which was another nice cheap bargain as well. You have to look around for these things, and they are to be had. Anyway, what else was there? Is there anything else? Nice picture, John. Your video quality is beautiful, really, really nice, and I do like the audio clock. That looks very good. And Mike, I'm going to pass it round to you next, I believe. I had no end of problems with getting onto websites, so I've mostly stopped using Windows for internet. I now use this computer I'm working here. If I can swing that round, you might see it. My main desktop, which is running the wideband spectrum monitor, that is running Linux Ubuntu, and that works very, very nicely, and of course you don't need any form of antivirus because nobody tries to do anything to it. It's very, very safe. There we go. Anyway, right, it's round to you, Mike. G0MJW from G7NTG.
It'll work better if I turn on the audio. Right, that's good, I think. It'll work better if I turn on the... Mute myself. What's astonishing about the picture I'm showing you is that the dish is still there. It was rather windy last night, at least it was here, so I think quite a few people's dishes may have moved. Anyway, I'm also using Roland's program. I thought I'd give it a try. I think it's implementing pretty much exactly the same as my script was doing, so it looks alright. The only problem is it doesn't seem to have the right sort of memory. It forgets the settings, so I've let him know, and I think it's probably something to do with the ini file. Anyway, there's not a lot been going on here, so let me just show you one or two things. Yeah, so the other thing is, to explain the website problem, I have a plugin called I Don't Care About Cookies, which is designed specifically to get rid of those extremely annoying overlays that come up with every website these days, called EU cookie rules. Please click to accept, and if you don't click to accept you can't do anything. Well, it basically gets rid of those, and it seems like Farnell are now trying to bypass that and detecting it and blocking it on their website, so a snotty email will go off to their CEO tomorrow or somewhere in their customer services anyway. Yeah. Right, what is happening here? Oh, and it wouldn't make any difference whether it was Linux. This is a PCB that I got from China. Came last week, I think, or was it this week? It's a very, very simple amplifier for, oh dear, shortwave frequencies. Long wave, medium wave, HF, you know, stuff that you shouldn't really be using. It's designed to go with the radio, the Russian radio that I showed you before, and any others, in fact, which is a little bit difficult to receive with a whip antenna on shortwave because it's got a 50 ohm input, so it's a FET used as an impedance transformer mainly. A very, very simple circuit, but it works, which is good. So that's what that is. I don't think there's anything else of interest in that picture, so I will just take up the theme of the day, which is not AVO meters, but it appears to be these things. I don't know if you can see that. That's what we call HP 436 power meter. And yes, I have got some of the probes for it, or the header things for it, but they're all the diode type, because I never managed to get hold of a good one that is not a diode type. And over the other side of the shack you can probably see another two of those, and one of its predecessors, the 435. I did have one of the broken probes, but surprisingly enough it was broken, so I couldn't fix it. And I gave it to someone. I don't think I got it back. I might have got it back, I don't know. I'll have a look in my drawer and see if I can find it, but it was dead, and I don't think they can be resurrected. Doesn't really matter. I mean, if you get one of those 100 milliwatt probes, 300 milliwatts max, you will blow it up. It'll not work after a while, so there's really no point using those. Whereas the diode probes that go to I think there's minus, or just a few microwatts at the maximum level, it's really, really low, minus 20 dBm I think it is, max, minus 70. They'll actually take 100 milliwatts without blowing up. And you tend to put an attenuator in the front of those anyway, so they're much harder to blow up. You have to be a lot stupider, because you always have the attenuator in there anyway, pretty much, for any use. That doesn't mean you won't blow them up, but it seems to be more reliable. Maybe they're not as accurate, I don't know, but good enough for amateur purposes. Right, nothing else. I'm just looking at the chat. I think I need to pass it round to Mike 5 Alpha Fox Germany, M5AFG. Not sure who that is, but they haven't got the internet, which is odd. And maybe they'll come up, I don't know. Right, let's just go back to the test card, and then we'll hopefully drop the carrier.
Yeah, I think you'll go, Dave. Yeah, I'm in. Okay, that's it's okay. Right. Good evening, M5 AFG. Name's Dave.
Let me just turn that audio coming back at me down a bit. Yeah, good evening. The call sign M5AFG, I use it occasionally. I think those that know me, Dave and Noel, will know me as G8VZT. I still keep both of them going, but I use the M5 occasionally. It happens to be in the menu or the program. I'm using a ports down 4, just getting my head round it. We are just local. I think it's the first time I've joined the net. I've looked at it for some time, viewing. At this end we're using the ports down 4, and I'm using one of Mike's amplifiers, which is running quite well at the moment, although I'm a bit confused with the digital meter that I've put on that registers current and volts, one of these little display ones, but I think I'm getting RF into it or something like that, because I put my hand over the DC cable and it becomes a lot more stable and meaningful, so the current meter side is unreliable at the moment. I'm waiting to change it over to an old analog one, you know, and then hopefully no RF will get into it. So it's running, I think at the moment, running about 150 watts, my guesstimation at the moment, and that's feeding into a 1 meter dish. So I've only got a 1 meter dish. I'm desperately looking for a 1.2, but they seem to be like the proverbial rocking horse, a doo-doo or whatever. So 1.2 to upgrade on receive, of course, as well as TX at a later date, but not during this weather. Locally, I've had a few contacts. There's a small group of us. There's Pete, there's John, G10RP, who lives near Welshpool. And we have G10AR, Pete, who's about 3 miles away from me. So we're getting on, we're playing about between ourselves and getting the feel of the equipment and so forth. So that's what it's there for, to be used. I'm trying to think. Oh, thank you for passing it on to me, Mike. The only trouble was Dave, G8GKQ, I didn't get who you said it was to pass on to, so I will apologise now. But that's one of those things. Main interest in the past has been in microwaves. I've operated up to 76 gigs and that in the past. Done lots of work in the old analog days with a few locals, G4CBW, Tony, and G7MRF. We did a lot of firsts in the days gone by on the old analog, which I do miss because it was so simple to put together. Digital, I do not understand. I'm sorry I don't have any other means of communicating by website or whatever. I have nothing on the phone side, so I've sort of crashed in on this. At the tender years of '88, I don't particularly want to get involved, but I've managed to get this system going, and hopefully it's doing a job, and I'm not causing too much trouble. And hopefully I'll have a report or two from one or two of you, and so forth. So with that in mind, I'm going to chuck it in the air. Hopefully the person next on will know who they are, because I didn't hear Dave refer to who to pass it on to, but I know it came from Mike. Right, I'll listen around. If I don't come back, I do apologise, but we'll try and join in again at some later date. This is M5AFG alias G8VZT 73s, and I'll press the button. It takes a bit to drop off, I think.
Yep. Is that me? Is that me? It's over the top of the beacon. Yeah, that's me, naughty boy, over the beacon again. Actually, I wouldn't have minded if my dish had shifted slightly in the wind. It might have brought the levels down to the right level. Hello. So the the cable on the camera is deciding where the camera's going to point. I've got no say in the matter. Let's move myself into picture a little bit. There we go. Well, I haven't been on for a few weeks, so tried to come on the other week, and I don't think I could get the OBS to talk to the Pluto for some reason. No idea why, but it seems to be working now. Yeah, I'm on there. I don't seem to have any audio. Let's just check that. So I was having to reboot the FFmpeg peg on the Pluto for receive. Yeah, that's okay. I've got audio coming out. I'll mute that. So yeah, Dave VZT. I haven't seen you for donkeys years. I remember you from Telford Club. Although when I was last there, I think I was about 15. So slightly more hair, slightly less belly, but. Yeah, and Dave, your signals, by the look of it, you're about 3 dB below the beacon. So another 3 dB, and you'd be spot on for the satellite. But good pictures and reasonably good audio, as in level of audio. Right, what have I been up to? Managed to get the breakout board for the Pi camera, the one that uses the HDMI leads. Thanks for the advice, everybody. Managed to get it working. I ended up having to strip the thing out and actually buzz out cable by cable. It was just a case of orientation of the flexes in 4 different positions. So at each end of the HDMI, that's 8 possibilities. And it seems that the Pi doesn't seem happy if you've not powered it up with the camera there. So I think you have to plug the camera in before you power the Pi up. So that meant there was a load of combinations I was trying that didn't work, but got it eventually by actually looking at the pinouts and trying to work out where it should be, rather than buggering around and trying things at random. So what else have I been up to? Yeah, Mike, you apologise about HF. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I built that during the week. It's an Auto ATU kit. I just happened to be browsing around online and saw there's a American station, N7 something, has put an Auto ATU design, sort of open source, up yourself design, based on a PIC, either 5 or 7 lots of caps and inductors, a little OLED display or LCD panel. So happened to be browsing around on eBay and saw the kits going for less than 30 quid. And I think I paid over the odds, because if you look on AliExpress, they're even cheaper. And for 30 odd quid, I couldn't think of an excuse not to get one. So an evening soldering and a morning of drilling holes, and I've got a little Auto ATU that will sit with the 817. They work rather well, actually. God knows what I'll use it for, because it's 40/9 of noise on HF in this place. I haven't had an HF antenna up for years. And to be perfectly honest, when I used to find the activity on HF, you drove me mad within about 15 seconds. More productively, I revisited a project that I was on about a year odd ago when I last touched it. Happened to be, again, spotting around eBay, saw something and pressed the buy now button. I don't know if they're still on there. They were going quite cheap at the time. These little PA boards, they're MRF 186, I think the device is, main device. You get a PCB, a collection of bits of offcuts of PCB with, so you get the bare unpopulated PCB for the power amp. You get various bits of hacksawed, what look like cellular foam transmitter unit with all the components on, so you have to pick those off, populate the board up. And I think they were about 16, 17 quid for basically the whole kit, everything except for the heatsink. So I thought, I'll have one of them. And then I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and I bought 4 of them. I populated the 2 meter one up on this heatsink as a test heatsink. Got that working. That was absolutely great. They give about 120 watts from a single board. So I've got 4 of them in a box. 120 watt is overdrive, and about 100 watts comfortable for the transistor. 120 is pushing it, but the PA would do it. So I've got 4 of those on a heatsink in a box. So I've been, last couple of days, I've been cutting bits of 75 ohm and 25 ohm coax hard line to make a phasing unit up for it. So that's been a bit of fun. I have the spec cam and the reflectometer bridge out. The one I've got on heatsink at the moment is a 77s one. So I've got 4 of those for 77s because I went back and I thought, I'll have 4 more. So, but that one, the 77s one, although I've followed some of the guidance online where people have done them and had problems, and they shorten the lines down, I still can't get more than about 60 watts out of it on 77s. So I need to go back to that. Yeah, I know people will say, why don't you just use a single package for 400 watts and be done with it? Well, yeah, I could do, but that's expensive. And I happen to have these boards now, so I'm going for it. So I've at the moment on the spec cam behind me is that you can probably see the dip. That's a bit of 75 ohm line to make a set of Wilkinson splitters combiners for 77s. So that is, I think that's me. Doing a load of other non-amateur related stuff, fettling away in the workshop, doing mechanical stuff, building bits and pieces, fixing people's bike bits for them, and yeah, so that's me. I will pass it on round next. Let me have a quick look at the chatter. See who's. I can't see the camera's in the way. 4CX. No 4CXs. I've got rid of all my valves. I've got a little collection of GI7 valves, which I think is going to Julian Ganaway. He wants them for some reason, which is great because I don't want them. Okay, round to... back to you, Dave. Okay, right, let me find the relay control and...
Okay. So nearly as strong as Jules, not quite. Slightly above the beacon. That'll decrease as the PA heats up, like it does. That's about 6 amps at 48 volts into the PA at the moment. Yeah, valves, long time ago. Yes, I should imagine a few people's dishes have turned round. I know Gareth was saying his has moved off. Jules, interesting in who's on the other end of the big red telephone. A long time since I've seen a red telephone like that. Power meters. Oh, you mean one of these? I've got one of those, but I've got no heads for it. The reason I bought it for the reference on the front. I thought the reference was really useful. All right, I'll turn the audio down then. Sorry. Is that better, I wonder? Jim, yeah, your lip sync actually looked worse than the test I did earlier. I'm not sure why it's so bad, but it did look worse than the testing I did earlier with mine. I will have another look at it, but it's a pig getting that right. Noel, the pick driving the ADF 4351, was that I'm not sure how fast the pick clocks, whether it clocks too fast or the edges aren't right or what, but that presumably was the G7 DOE pick driver, which I'm not sure how fast that one is. Yeah, my audio is not brilliant. That's right, Mike. Yeah, revision C of the Pluto is out. There were some tweets about the changes to it. It's actually got UFL sockets to put the external reference in, so it's actually a bit better from that respect. And they reckon they've cleared the earthing problems as well. I was thinking, is it Robin Gett posting something about it on Twitter? Right. That's the response to the questions. Around here, I've been playing with the F1 EJP script a bit. Not enough, clearly, otherwise the audio would be spot on. I also had a disaster this week. I got a new chair a good few months ago, and I've always known it was a bit staticky, but we had a really dry day, and I clearly sat down in the wrong method and then touched my Winter Hill PCB, and a big spark jumped and it blew up a Raspberry Pi 4, and it's actually blown up the power supply chip on the Raspberry Pi 4, so I'm waiting for a new one. So that was the disaster of the week. Prior to that, I'd done a lot of work on the Winter Hill, and Brian and I have been working together, and that will be all ready for release in the next CQTV. Been also doing some work on Ryde. There'll be a new release of Ryde coming out very shortly. Added some features. There'll be a stream viewer in the console menu, so if you want to watch your favourite repeater, you can go into the Ryde and watch it. But you need to use the SSH console menu. And also doing the automated 4x3 16:9 switching for repeater users. And lastly, because I'm on OBS, I can show some pictures. So I was just going to do this. Hang on, I'm not very good at OBS. But let's go to that. And that is the 1.2 meter cheap dish I'm using outside. It's the £20 one from Hull. And that is the feed in the plastic box. On an 8-second loop here. The plastic box there has the PA in, and on the plastic box on the left hand side is the Polish PA and a 48 volt power supply and some monitoring. So I just thought I'd chuck those up. Let's get rid of those. There we go. No, not really a fault on the Winter Hill board, Mike. The spark actually jumped to one of the little power supplies, the stand-up power supplies. The protective diode on the Raspberry Pi didn't protect it. I actually took it off the board because I thought that had blown, but it hadn't. It was still active. So no idea. And Dave, JVZT, really good to see you on the satellite. I didn't know who you were until you said you JVZT. Really nice to see you again. And Bernie G4HJW, who isn't transmitting tonight, sends his regards, Dave. He's watching, as are a number of others who are all pleased to see you on. So thanks very much for making the effort, and you'll be on again once more after Mike next time round. So let's put it on to John, G7JTT, and the group G8GKQ with the poor lip sync.
HGTZ. Okay, well, interesting. Not too many of us on tonight actually, but some interesting stuff there, and good to see you, Dave. Great to see you. I heard there's quite a bit of activity going on in the Telford area. Even Mr. Karras did a couple of BATC orders, so that's quite exciting that we're going to see John on at some point. But no, it's good to see you. Not much else to comment on. John, your pictures are exceptional as usual. That new setup you've done really does do the business. That's very, very good. And yes, I do have an HP power meter, but it's not one of the big ones. It's sitting over there. I've also got a Marconi that it's got a 3-watt 18 gig head on. Keep on thinking about selling it. It sort of sat in the cupboard and hasn't been used for a couple of years, but perhaps I ought to. There's various bits and pieces around here that haven't been used for a while. Keep thinking about selling them, but you know what it's like. The day you have the clear out, the day after you need what you've disposed of. Okay, Bernie. Yes, that's fine. I said before all this fuss occurred on the forum about the FFmpeg scripts, I helped Mike LES get his running, and I did a Word document, and then it struck me in the course of doing that I'd seen exactly the problems that Bernie has when he comes up with his sound breaking up, etc. So I sent Bernie the same document, so hopefully we'll see some decent pictures from Bernie when he gets it all set up. Good. Okay, nothing more from me, so I'll pass it round to Jim. And yes, it does seem to be the night of the Portsdown lip sync problems. But, there we go. Right. Okay, round to Jim.
Right, we'll try for lip sync now. Right, we'll try for lip sync. Oh, it's now. Terrible, isn't it? I'll mute it. That's all right. It doesn't matter, does it? Really? It's okay. Yes. No, don't sell stuff, because you're absolutely right. As soon as you've sold it, you realise, oh, I shouldn't have sold that. I might need that. I do need it. I am very, very interested in the Winterhill, because I'm sure my friend from Greece, SV8RV, will want one as soon as they become available. So I've got a feeling I might get the job of building him one, which is great, because I get to build lots of nice things like that. I enjoy that. And thanks for confirming about the Pluto, Noel. I think we'll go for one of those. Yes, I like. I do use a lot of power supply, power meters, as you can see in the corner there. They all work, and there's lots of sensors of all types. I'm actually short one sensor cable, but I'm not paying the price they're quoting, so what I'm going to do, I've ordered some plugs. I've found some plugs for 10 quid each. I'm going to buy some of those and make a cable and see if that's alright, because these cables look like ordinary cable. They don't look special like the old 478 one. This one is a special cable, the really old reliable one. So there's no chance of making one of those. So they're not the only power. I've got another power meter on my 23 SEMS rig, but I do like to know exactly what power I'm putting out, and I like to check attenuators and everything and make sure everything's spot on. But anyway, enough waffling from me. I think I've covered everything, so I shall put it round to Mike. So G0MJW from G7NTG on the net.
That's quite enough of that, I think. Very interesting. Lots of interesting bits of work going on. Jules, I've built one of those ATUs actually, quite interesting. And they're very, very fast in their tuning and quite useful. Not sure what they're useful for, because I don't really have very much interest in transmitting on HF apart from on the 80 meter net for the AMSAT group, but there you are. Right, yes, Winter Hill. Brian's been working very hard on producing a new version of the software and some instructions. I've done something about building the PCB, which I put in the wrong place on the wiki, and Noel's now put in the correct place. So hopefully that will help. It's not long now, I think, until it's ready. So yeah, there'll be a run on all power supplies. The things that we use in there will no doubt go out of stock. They always do that sort of thing. But let's see. Right, yeah, this script is very good. One thing I did notice is its data rate is much lower than I'm using in my script. So I've set it now. I've set the headroom down to 20. So I guess that's 20%. Because it was set to 25, and I could probably go down a bit more because I'm looking at the rate and it's running at 361. So unless I want to do anything really mad with the video, then I'm probably wasting quite a bit of bandwidth in nulls. But yeah, it's good enough, and you can tweak it as you like. Going back to this unit here, so the unit behind the unit here is of course the Winter Hill. What I did, and this is something that people will need to do maybe, is I put some holes here. So my system, these things are holes here. My system is using the fan underneath the Pluto now in the hole in the PCB, and it blows air up on the Pi, and that cools that fine, but it doesn't do anything to cool the NIM. The tuner modules, and they do get hot. So the plan is really to have some holes in the bottom underneath that fan, and the rest of the box mostly sealed, and the air to exit through those holes, which means it will have to go past the NIMs and hopefully give them a bit of a cooling. At least that's the idea. I haven't tested it yet, but a very similar thing worked with my other version. So the other version is built into now what's it called? A Vortex Star that I got from Noel. I mean, that was very good. I think it was £1 or something at one of the rallies, and what Noel didn't realise is what it came with. But anyway, that was as a receiver, but not good enough. So the gubbins inside got chucked out and got replaced by the Winter Hill. It just fitted with a little bit of metal bashing, and it looks like a set-top box and is a set-top box, but it did get hot, so I put a fan in the back of it just to take some air out, and that seems to cool that more than adequately with the metal heatsink for the Pi. But for this one here, if you look at the back again, you can see the connectors for the Pi are flush with the back of the case. That is intentional. That was by design, as is the hole for the DC jack, also by design. And once I managed to source some 3/832 ultra fine thread, whatever, that are used for the F connectors, that lot can be bolted into the back of that. That case should fit quite nicely, but obviously it needs to be in BATC blue rather than silver. But you know, I was pressed for time, and the blue ones were out of stock. But also the silver ones are cheaper. But you've got to be careful because For the Nooker, I ordered one of those boxes, a black one. I didn't realise it was the plastic one rather than the metal one. Plastic ends are fine, but they're not as good as the metal ones. Anyway, so getting airflow out of that is going to be important because the whole thing, full chat, will dissipate about 10 watts. So you do need to pay attention to cooling and making sure that it doesn't overheat. We've thought about how you might do that, and a fan on the front might be another way of doing it as well, or even a very small fan on the back. That's left to the users. Right, that's enough of that. So 7-3 everyone, really good to see you all. I think it's M5AFG next, and sorry, I wasn't quite sure what the M5 call was. I didn't know if it was the new version of the novice license, or it was like a G5 or a G9 experimental call. Difficult to tell really. There's some strange call signs around. Right, M5AFG, G0MJW, 7-3 to everybody else. Catch you next week.
Should be coming on. Right, okay, I think I'm there with a little bit of luck. Just getting au fait with these push buttons and touch screens and things. A gym, NTG, I think it is, isn't it? G7 NTG. Let me just turn this feedback coming back to me down a bit. Quite annoying, isn't it? Hearing yourself delayed, but anyway, there we are. It's down a bit better. Right, Power Edge Gym. Oh, turn it down a bit more. Yeah, Power Edge Gym. There is a source locally. It's about 5 miles away from us. It's called Telford Electronics. The old officers' mess down at BOD Donington. He's there, Mark. He used to do the rallies many years ago. And he deals in them sort of things. I had my Hewlett Packard 435A meter from him and the Ed for a quite reasonable price at the time, but then I was doing at the time, so I got a special price. I got a 300 milliwatt head and a 20 dB attenuator in it, so that's done most of my work in the home microwave days. It's still about. I'm going to try and incorporate it onto the PA of yours, Mike. Possibly tomorrow. I've got a line 20 dB attenuator to sample off to hopefully supply to the Ed. We might be able to see what power we got coming out or something. So that's on the cards to be done. But you may care to try, Jim, just before I forget, if you want to give it a phone call, you may just be lucky, and he may have some damaged ones. And it's 01952, which is a Telford number, 01952 605 451. It's worth a ring. He's still dabbling in it. He buys a lot of the old ministry stuff, and most of his stuff goes abroad from the ministry to Holland and places like that, because they don't really have a military people, and he does very well selling there. So not much of it gets onto the market here. But you may give him a ring if you're looking for power heads. He has had them in the past, and so forth. Right, the location here is a little place called Wellington, 11 miles east of the county town of Shrewsbury, and that's in the county of Shropshire. A sunny Shropshire normally, but not today. And yes, fine. That's superb work you're doing there, Mike. I do. I've seen you on once or twice with over the past year or so. I have been receiving, but it's took me a long time to get the TX side sorted out. And I've always admired the work and the professional work that you finish up with, the standard. Only wish I could compete. But there it is. We all get something from the hobby, I'm sure we do. I get great pleasure in building stuff and putting it together myself anyway. What else? Oh yes, the Porcelain 4 touchscreen this end. The only annoying fact, I don't know whether anybody's got any answer or anybody's looked into it, on 66 SR, the dropout is terribly confusing. I really have to watch until the screen has reverted to a blank screen, because it reverts back to the program, the menu 1, and it's very disconcerting because I suddenly start making changes, but it hasn't dropped off, and I think it confuses its poor old brain, so I have to reboot. So I've now learnt the lesson of having to wait for it to cease TXing altogether. But I think Dave, you did write an article in there and exploit the virtues of it and what have you. But I wonder if anybody's looked into it. I did have a word with Heather, M0HMO. I'm sure you know Heather, and she's getting close to finishing the equipment, so she hasn't got around to it. I'm sure she will look into it, possibly, with a view to resolving that. She's not too far away, but we don't keep in touch too much because of this COVID. Else I usually pop over and say hello. And John, yes, G7ACD, he's about to come on. He's not too far off, so a little group forming in this part of the country. Right, I've rabbited on about anything and nothing. I think it goes over to G0MZO. I know the face, but I can't quite remember. And of course, I was a founder member of the Telford Club in the early days. I remember you. Certainly seen you about, and I've seen you at rallies. But we shall have to do a one-to-one to get an update. Right. Oh, it's gone 9. I better pass it on. I think you're the last one. G0MZO to transmit. G8VZT on the mic.
G8VZT. G8GKQ. Jules has come up on the internet saying he won't come on next, Dave, so I'll take it and close the net shortly. I forgot to mention, Dave, your signal report here is D2.8, but I notice your FEC a half, so you could probably up that to FEC 2/3 and get a slightly better picture out. But really good to see you with your Portstown 4 working. That's a really good bit of construction, and good to hear that so many people up there are building them. I did have a long chat with Heather about it a while ago. Mike G0MJW says you're D7 with him, but Mike's got a 2.4 or something dish. And Mark G0NMY sends his regards as well to you, Dave. He's come up on the chat. Okay, the problems you're having with the I take it you're using a Pluto for the transmit, Dave. The overrun is something I've had a look at and don't seem to be able to do anything about. You tend to crash the Pluto if you do any changes before the overrun is finished. I think that's the major problem. But I will give that some more attention when I get all these receiver projects out the way. And I don't think there's anything else to comment on. Just a few people on tonight. Nope. My lip sync problem is actually a scripting problem, nothing to do with the ports down. I'm just saying that. Whereas Jim's lip sync problem is a ports down lip sync problem. So there we go. Right. Well, thanks all for coming on. It's good to see new faces, and look forward to seeing you all next week. And don't forget, if you've got any CQTV articles, please send them in. Yeah, Mike, you just did have a little bit of lip sync problem. I don't know why. So, good night all, and I'll leave the frequency clear for a free-for-all. G8GKQ, closer than that.